Hello once again. We're starting chapter 3. This is Mr. Greenstein's geometry class, and we're going to be talking about parallel and perpendicular lines. So we're going to start out with just lines and angles, very simple stuff. Then we're going to get into transversals and how they go through parallel lines. Then some proofs with parallel and then perpendicular, and finally we're going to be talking about equations, parallel and perpendicular lines. So this particular recording is just for 3.1. So parallel lines, you can see by the symbols here, we have parallel lines, coplanar lines that do not intersect. We also have parallel planes, planes that do not intersect. And if they did intersect, then they would intersect and create a line at the intersection. But these do not intersect. Perpendicular lines, they're lines that intersect with a right angle. And you can see here that we have two planes that are parallel. We have two lines that are parallel. You can notice that the arrows here, so there's an arrow here and an arrow here, and they're red. Those indicate that they're parallel. Perpendicular is shown by a little bit of a mark here. Let's see here, a little square. So we can show that. That's perpendicular. So K would be perpendicular to the plane. Skew lines. Now these are lines that are not coplanar and do not intersect at all. So skew lines in this particular picture, there you could say that line K and line M are skew because they're not on the same plane and they do not intersect. Identifying parallel and perpendicular lines. So here's a diagram, and the perpendicular part here is this little symbol here. I have, for parallel lines, I have these arrows here. So that's how you can identify when lines are perpendicular or parallel. So in this particular case, N and line L down here, they're parallel. And the line K and the line L are perpendicular at this point right here. Perpendicular lines. Now, here's some postulates. Euclid thought that there needs to be something said about parallel lines. So he said that there's this parallel postulate. If there is a line and a point not on the line, so here's our line, L, and here's our point that's not on the line, P, and a point not on that line, then there is exactly one line through that point. So here's the line. There's exactly one line through that point that's parallel to this original line here. So that's the parallel postulate. The perpendicular postulate says that through that there's a line and a point that's not on the line, then there's exactly one one line that's perpendicular that goes through that point and through the original line. So parallel postulate, we're talking about point and parallel line going through a point, and perpendicular postulate, we're talking about a perpendicular line going through that same or through a point. Transversals, so a line that intersects two or more coplanar lines. So here we have the line T, and it intersects with K and intersects with H. and it intersects right at this point here and this point here. These are coplanar lines, and this is called the transversal. So we'll call it T, so just to make that extra point there. It's the line of intersection. Now let's just take these lines here. We have K, and we have H, and we have this T here. T is the transversal. So consecutive or same side interior angles. Same side interior angles are 3 and 5. So here and here, those are consecutive or same side interior angles. And the same thing can be said about 6 and 4. We have alternate interior angles. So interior means that they're interior to the two lines H and K. So they're in between. And they alternate from side to side on the transversal. So 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles, and so is 4 and 5. So 3 and 6, 4 and 5 are alternate interior angles. There's also alternate exterior. So exterior means outside, like outside of H here and outside of K. So they're on either side. And the alternate, that means like 7 compares to 2. So they're on each side of the transversal. And the same thing with 8 is on one side and 1 is on the other side. So 2 and 7, 1 and 8. And then we have corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are angles that are on the same side, so say the north side of K and the north side of H, and they're on the same side of the transversal. So 2 and 6 are an example. 5 and 1 are an example. But also we can say 4 corresponds to 8 down here, and 3 corresponds to 7. So they're on the south side, the bottom of H and K. So 1 and 5, 2 and 6, 3 and 7, 4 and 8. So we have consecutive interior angles, we have alternate interior angles, we have alternate exterior angles, and corresponding angles, all caused by a transversal going through and intersecting two lines. And that just leads to our homework. And so now do your homework, and you will find out more about these lines. And